All right, hi everyone, we are back, and in this little video, we're going to talk about the nervous system in a nutshell. We're going to specifically talk about um, what our autonomic nervous system is, so we can get a better understanding of why we are doing our breath work and measuring our heart rate variability from time to time. Um, so our nervous system has, well, there's different components to our nervous system. The one we think about most is our thinking, right? That's our central nervous system and our cognitive centers. Um, and then we have voluntary movement, and that's through our movement of our arms and muscles and legs, and it allows us to interact with our world. Well, all the other processes in the body that don't involve um, any sort of movement, intentional movement, is controlled by something called the autonomic nervous system. So that is our heart rate, our blood pressure, our temperature, and that's what we're talking about here. But it goes as far as electrolyte balance, digestion, respiratory rate, overall respiratory rate, pupillary response, how dilated our pupils are or constricted our pupils are, urination, sexual arousal as well as blood heart rate and blood pressure. Right? So let's look at the different. So that's what this autonomic nervous system is regulating. So we're going to go back to that regulation. When you are healthy, you have very good, all these are all controlled by reflexes. And when you're very healthy, all the heart rate has very good reflexes to slow down and speed up when you need it to. Blood pressure is going to be low. Body temperature is going to be able to cool the body down by sweating very easily or heat the body up through through increasing the metabolism. And these reflexes are going to be very sharp. In other words, they're going to be able to self-regulate very quickly. When we notice we start to lose self-regulation, our heart rate starts to jump out of nowhere, and we can't calm our heart rate down. That's the easiest one to track, for example. Then we are losing self-regulation. Those are usually associated with things like anxiety, depression, stress as well. So now we understand the nervous system. We're going to get into this parasympathetic nervous system and versus the sympathetic nervous system. So these are the two components, two branches of our autonomic nervous system: sympathetic, parasympathetic. So sympathetic controls fight or flight or the stress response. The parasympathetic nervous system controls stimulation of rest and digest activities essential for recovery. So I think of, on the parasympathetic, rest and digest, as well as recover, regenerate, sleeping, calmness. And when I think of sympathetic nervous system, I think of things like fighting something. So you either have to fight an animal, that's your fight or flight response that comes on, or you have to give a presentation, that gives you the fight or flight response, or you have to fight bacteria or virus that's your immune system. That's also part of the fight or flight system for the immune system, is they have to, your inflammation will be generated by the sympathetic nervous system. Its sole purpose is needed for short-term survival. So it's on for a very short period of time, and then it goes boom back to normal, or back down, so that we can recover, right? So if we have inflammation, that's important. It's important to get over that viral infection. But at the other hand, we need to be able to shift it. We need to be able to get our body to decrease the inflammation and to recover. And that's what the parasympathetic nervous system is for. It's for recovery. Unfortunately, we live in a society, in a world where we're under constant stress, and there's just everything that's going on right now produces a little bit more of us to be hardwired to have this sympathetic nervous system response a little bit more on average. I wouldn't say hardwired. I would say we've trained ourselves through our modern lifestyles, as well as some genetics, to have this more active sympathetic nervous system. So that's the two phases of our nervous system. So now that you understand that, we can go, why does it actually matter? Well, there's a lot of different research, as we were saying here. This heart rate variability associated with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, respiratory diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, autoimmune conditions, biological age. So a lot of people who have good heart rate variability are seem to age a little bit slower, so they seem younger for their age. Mental health, depression, anxiety, ranging to PTSD as well, and prevent injury. It might guide rehabilitation. So there's lots of important aspects of why we check our heart rate variability. Low versus high. So it's not so much a number. So it's more of what it is based on your baseline and how it changes over time. That, I would say, that's more important than just the number. There are some numbers statistically that would be considered low, and they are concerning when they're low. If someone has a heart rate variability of 10, I get you get really concerned at that point. But most people will stay in the 40 up to 70 kind of range, and we know that the average population fits within that range. And so when you think about heart rate variability, it's about how it changes in you and how you can adapt and change it over time and then get a new set point. But we base it over an average of at least 7 days, sometimes a week, to get kind of a resting heart rate variability. And then we can then gauge when things are stressful and inflammation is present versus when things are you're in rest and digest and a profound anti-inflammatory response. So these are the, when it's high, it's correlated with overall better health, better resilience, physical health as well, willpower, calm, positive emotions. And when it is lower, this HRV is associated with sympathetic fight or flight response, suppressed parasympathetic activity, sometimes we call it the vagus nerve, vagal activity, indicate a body's inability to encourage recovery mode or an exhaustion of recovery capacity. They make a good point here, is that you can have a temporary reduction in heart rate variability if you're overworking yourself. So that's what I also like about heart rate variability, in that you can track it. You can check in on yourself once or twice, first thing in the morning in the week, and you can kind of compare it to last week, and you can say, wow, I'm really burnt out at a physiological level. If I continue on like this, I'm not going to be productive. Absolutely not, because my body is in more of a sympathetic state. I might need to take some time on myself and prioritize. I might need to take some time to regenerate and get a better sleep and do something fun, watch a good movie and relax and not get up in the night and do extra work. Take some time for yourself. So we can track it that way, and that's what makes it kind of neat as well. It can also lower when we have an infection. So a lot of people are actually using it now to kind of monitor for signs of an infection, which right now the big concern is COVID. So a lot of people are using this biomarker to monitor for infections. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we can do that later on. There's so many aspects to this. We have to create multiple videos and really just keep kind of repeating the core concepts, but going down into focuses. So we'll talk a little bit about how to track your heart rate variability and determine if you have a cold or a flu coming on. And it would be about a day before symptoms approach. So you can do lots of good nutritional protocols if that happens. So these are some reasons why we have low heart rate variability. I would like to say one thing that's kind of a hard part about the heart rate variability is that we do have to be a little bit mindful about overdoing readings, and it can get very almost kind of addictive to be taking a reading 3 or 4 times a day kind of thing. So I would say that's probably one of the drawbacks of heart rate variability. So just keep mindful of that. I would say the more data you get over time, the more accurate it is. So you might be taking more readings at the beginning, and that's fine. But over time, you'll probably take a little bit less. And I think that's what we want to promote, because I like to always promote to do something well, but do it in a way that's sustainable and not leading to too much perfectionism and too much, because there's stress that causes a lot of stress. So as you get more data, we can back off and not have to take so many readings. And sometimes all the readings that we take is just an in-office visit once every 6 months after we get a little bit of data at the beginning. And you can see some really powerful trends overall in your health when you look at it that way. So that is it for this video on our nervous system, the parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, and what it means. And now in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about breath work and just kind of what that means and why breathing is so important, although we have to breathe, but why certain ways we can breathe are important. So we'll see you over at the next video in a few seconds here.